There are moments when life feels unbearably still. You've asked, you've waited, you've visualized, and yet everything remains exactly where it was. You wonder, what more can I do? What haven't I tried? Deep down, there's a silent ache, not just for change, but for proof that you're not invisible to the universe, that you're not whispering your hopes into an empty void. But what if the stillness isn't absence? What if it's reflection? Your brain is not a camera. It doesn't record your reality. It creates it. That's not a metaphor. That's neuroscience. Karl Pribram, one of the greatest minds in brain science, revealed that the mind operates not like a linear machine, but like a hologram. In a hologram, each tiny piece contains the entire image. Every emotion you feel, every belief you carry, every memory you rehearse, shapes the whole of what you experience. So what if your current reality isn't responding to your desire, but to your assumption? Neville Goddard once said, "Assumption is not a wish, it is a claim." But how many of us are truly claiming the life we want? Not with words, but with our nervous system, our breath, our posture, our expectations. We speak of change, but our body is still bracing for more of the same. You don't turn on a light by asking the electricity. You flip the switch because you assume the current is already there. It's the same with manifestation. The shift happens not when you want something badly enough, but when you no longer question its presence. When the desire stops being a distant hope and becomes a natural response in your emotional field. Here's the deeper truth. Your subconscious mind doesn't operate in linear time. It doesn't understand waiting, or hoping, or almost. It understands coherence, emotional coherence, biological agreement, the body and mind vibrating the same signal, as if the future has already arrived. But most of us are manifesting from the surface, from thoughts alone, from the lips, not from the gut, from the conscious mind, which processes maybe 5% of our reality, instead of the subconscious where the real creators live. So maybe the question isn't, what do I want to manifest? Maybe the question is, what am I neurologically embodying as real right now? And if you've ever felt like life is stuck in a loop, maybe tonight is the night to break it, not by pushing harder, not by thinking louder, but by learning how to assume, not from your thoughts, but from your state. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you've been quietly waiting for something to change, I invite you to stay. And more than that, I invite you to breathe, feel, and remember. This isn't just a video, it's a turning point, maybe even the one your soul has been rehearsing for in silence. Take a moment to like this video if the message already touches something inside you. Leave a comment sharing the silent desire you've been carrying, and subscribe if you feel called to walk deeper into this kind of truth. Someone you know may be waiting to hear this too. So don't hesitate to share. Now, let's begin. When you want one thing, but assume another. There is a kind of quiet conflict that lives beneath the surface of many people's spiritual journey. A contradiction so subtle, it often goes unnoticed. You close your eyes and visualize abundance. But deep down, you still expect the bills to arrive unpaid. You speak of love, but part of you already assumes rejection. You try to imagine success, but your nervous system braces for another disappointment. And so, without realizing, you split yourself in two, one self reaching forward, the other one pulling back in defense. This is not just a feeling, it's a vibrational contradiction, a frequency that says, I want, while the body says, I doubt, and the field around you listens to both. Karl Pribram's work offers a powerful key to this phenomenon. In his theory of the brain as a holographic processor, perception is not linear. It's layered, interconnected. And just like in a hologram, even a single fractured point in the image distorts the entire projection. That means one unconscious assumption, one emotional scar, one belief that you're not worthy, can bend your entire reality around it. That's why affirmations often fall flat. You can repeat beautiful phrases 100 times. But if your biology is rehearsing fear, if your nervous system is wired for loss, if your cells are still memorizing struggle, the signal that reaches the field is distorted, not because you're broken, but because your inner world is not yet in coherence. And coherence is everything. Manifestation isn't about convincing the universe. It's about removing the static between what you desire and what you embody. When you assume one thing and vibrate another, life becomes foggy, delayed, misaligned. The universe doesn't withhold. It simply reflects the dominant signal. And most of the time, that signal is subconscious. So the question becomes, where in me have I been asking for light, while still assuming that darkness will return? This question isn't meant to accuse. It's meant to invite, to turn inward with honesty and compassion, to notice where you're still negotiating with your worth, where you're still waiting for life to prove that you're safe instead of assuming that you already are. The truth is, we don't manifest from what we say. We manifest from what we believe we are. And if even a small part of you still assumes pain is more familiar than peace, that's the frequency your reality mirrors back. So pause, breathe, and feel. Not what you want, but what you've truly been assuming all along. That is where the shift begins. Ready for Chapter 2? The real block: emotional addiction to the past. Sometimes what holds you back isn't your desire for change, it's your body's loyalty to what's already known. You think you're stuck because the universe is silent, but often you're stuck because your nervous system is still echoing old stories. Stories of pain, of loss, of not being chosen, of always being the one who almost got there but didn't. Dr. Joe Dispenza has shown us something startling. The body can become chemically addicted to familiar emotions, even the ones that hurt. Sadness, anger, guilt. They become familiar terrain, like grooves carved into a record that keeps playing the same melody, even when the song is long over. You may crave something new, but your biology is still looping the old. And in that loop, your past keeps bleeding into your future. This addiction isn't conscious, it's patterned, and it often wears the mask of safety. The body doesn't choose what's best, it chooses what's known. So if suffering became your anchor, your body may resist peace, not out of fear of joy, but out of fear of unfamiliarity. It's like trying to grow a garden over a floor of concrete. You can plant the most radiant seeds, hope, love, abundance. But if the soil beneath is hardened by the weight of old emotion, nothing can root, nothing can grow. The vision may be beautiful, but the ground doesn't recognize it. That's why so many spiritual seekers feel exhausted, not because they're doing it wrong, but because they're carrying the emotional weight of everything they haven't yet released. The illusion says, I'm manifesting my dream. But the reality often is, I'm emotionally rehearsing my trauma. To move forward, healing must happen at the level of rehearsal. It's not about silencing the past, it's about interrupting the pattern that keeps dragging it into the present. Only then can a new emotional signature take root. The future doesn't need more effort. It needs a nervous system that's no longer married to the past. One night can begin that shift, but only when you stop trying to manifest your dreams from the same emotional soil that buried them. Let's continue with Chapter 3. The counterintuitive shift. Why letting go feels like losing control. There's a moment on the path to transformation that feels like standing on the edge of a cliff. You can see the life you want. You've touched it in dreams, in visions, in passing glimpses during meditation or silence. But to fully step into it, something in you has to die. And that's the part no one talks about, the sacred cost of becoming someone new. Letting go is not always peaceful. Often it feels like losing your identity. Because for years, maybe decades, you've survived by being the one who waits, the one who almost gets there, the one who keeps trying. That identity, even in its pain, gave you a role to play. It gave you structure. It gave you something to hold on to. But assumption is different. Assumption doesn't ask you to wait. It asks you to release, to step out of the version of you who is becoming and into the version of you who already is. And that kind of shift feels unnatural to a mind trained in survival. It feels like surrendering your edge, like abandoning the very tension you've used to hold yourself upright. Here's the paradox: the dream you've been chasing may not be far away, but it does require the end of your emotional loyalty to the struggle that shaped you. Those who manifest with ease are often not the most skilled or spiritual. They are the ones who stop needing permission to feel worthy. They live not from logic, but from familiarity, a deep cellular knowing that what they desire is not out there, but already theirs. This knowing doesn't come from control. In fact, control delays it. The more you grip, the more you prove to your nervous system that you don't trust the unfolding. And in that mistrust, you create tension, a frequency that says, "I must make this happen," instead of "I already am this." Letting go is not passive. It's the most courageous choice of all. It's the moment you stop fighting to become and start breathing as though you already are. Let's move gently into Chapter 4. Practical technique, one-night assumption protocol. Some moments in life don't need years to change you. They need intensity, presence, coherence. And just one night of emotional clarity can do more than a decade of passive wishing. But for that to happen, your body, your mind, and your belief must stop operating in separate timelines. There's a reason the moments right before sleep carry such power. In that in-between space, where thought softens and resistance fades, the subconscious becomes more accessible, the doors open. And in that window, you can speak to yourself in a language far older than words, emotion. So instead of asking for change, you begin to rehearse it, not in fantasy, not in hope, but in emotional finality, as if the outcome is already integrated in your being. The first step is simple, but not easy. Before sleep, drop into a single emotional frequency. Choose one: peace, gratitude, love, fulfillment, and embody it as if the page has already turned, not as imagination, but as memory. Let your body feel the result, not the effort. Next, resist the temptation to check, to prove, to search for signs. The day after, live as if the shift is already in motion, like gravity. You don't test gravity each morning, you trust it. This is how assumption works. It doesn't seek confirmation. It becomes its own evidence. Then, gently reinforce the new identity as the day unfolds. Not with dramatic rituals or forced affirmations, but with subtle embodiment. Your gestures, your breath, your pace, all quietly tuned to the version of you who knows. That's the secret. Not performance, but familiarity. You can deepen this coherence with a simple anchor, an object that acts as a neural cue. A ring, a scent, a bracelet. Something physical that whispers to your biology, we've already arrived, not as superstition, but as repetition. Every time you see it, your nervous system remembers who it is now allowed to be. The truth is, repetition isn't the only key. Coherence, felt with emotional intensity, often requires just one moment to rewire everything. One moment of full-body agreement, one night when the performance ends and the becoming begins. This is not a method to trick the universe. It's a ritual to remind yourself that you are no longer waiting to be chosen. You already are. And when your inner world stops negotiating with the timeline, reality begins to bend. Now we continue into the metaphor that ties it all together. Chapter 5. The mirror that waits for your face. Reality is not a painting. It's not fixed, not static, not something you look at from a distance. It's a mirror. A living, responsive surface that waits for you to move before it reflects anything back. But most people approach it the opposite way. They wait for the mirror to smile first, to offer proof, to change its reflection, before they dare to change their expression. But that isn't how the mirror works, and it isn't how life works. Karl Pribram's holographic brain theory shows us that even the tiniest shift in perception, the smallest emotional assumption, alters the entire pattern. Reality doesn't operate in straight lines. It operates in resonance. A single assumption, when fully embodied, sends ripples through your entire field. It recalibrates the projection, not with effort, but with frequency. Still, many walk up to the mirror every morning, silently demanding, "Show me that I'm worthy, and then I'll feel it. Show me that I'm loved, and then I'll believe it. Show me that I'm safe, and then I'll relax." But the mirror cannot move first. It's not personal, it's principle. Imagine standing in front of your own reflection and pleading for it to laugh while your face remains frozen. That's how most people approach manifestation, not with embodiment, but with hesitation, with longing, with delay encoded in every gesture. Assumption isn't about pretending, it's not performance. It's not about acting as if, it's about becoming, feeling it in your posture, your choices, your presence. It's the quiet frequency that says, "I no longer ask, I remember." And the moment you remember, and with your whole being, the mirror shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you became the face it was waiting to reflect. Let us now close with what lives at the center of it all. Reality bends to the identity you embody. There comes a moment, often in stillness, often in silence, when you realize the universe was never withholding. It was only responding not to your words or your wishes, but to your identity, to the vibration you carry when no one is watching, to the assumptions etched deep into your cells, repeated breath after breath, moment after moment. Karl Pribram taught us that memory is not a fixed record. It is a constructed image, one that can be revised, reimagined, rewritten. You are not at the mercy of what was. You are the projector, not the film. And if you rebuild the memory, you rebuild the world it projects. Dr. Bruce Lipton showed us that your beliefs, especially the unconscious ones, speak directly to your biology. Your cells listen. They don't wait for proof. They respond to perception. If you assume safety, your body shifts toward healing. If you assume lack, your biology prepares for battle. Every belief becomes a biological instruction. This is not philosophy, it's physics, it's embodiment, it's the sacred technology of being alive. So if your future keeps echoing your past, maybe it's because your body is still echoing the voice of fear, of delay, of almost. But one night can change that, not through force or proof or permission, but through coherence, through stepping into the identity that already lives the outcome and staying there, not as performance, but as familiarity. The moment you stop asking if you're worthy and begin to assume you are, something shifts. Not just in your heart, not just in your mind, but in the quantum field that holds every possibility. Let this be that moment. Let this be that night. Not the night you begged for change, but the night you became the mirror. Reality doesn't bend to your requests. It bends to your resonance. And if this message stirred something in you, some forgotten knowing, some quiet ache, some readiness that words can't fully name, let it echo, like, comment, share. Not out of habit, but out of alignment. And if you choose to stay, I'll meet you again, where silence speaks louder than doubt. This isn't the end, it's the return.